Ladies and gentlemen of Ballet International and on YouTube audience, let me present you a new artist of Ballet International. His name is Philip Boyd, and he is from South Africa. The only thing I know is that he has been a wonderful dancer. He has been dancing mainly in Cape Town at the CAPAB, and he has been dancing in soloist and I think in principal roles as well. So, good evening, Mr. Philip. How are you?
Evening, Jean-Pierre. I'm very well, thank you. Hope you're well.
I'm so pleased to have you online, and I'm sure that the audience will follow your interview with great interest today.
Thank you very much.
So, Philip, can I call you straight away Philip?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So, Philip, could you kindly describe how you started ballet? At what age? Who were your teachers? In which town? In which ballet school?
Yeah, I started dancing when I was 7. I had a friend of mine who lived behind us. We lived in Roosevelt Park in Johannesburg.
Yes.
And my mother was very ill at the time, and we used to get billeted out to families or whatever. And this little friend of mine, she went to ballet class, and I thought, well, I'm going to go along as well.
Yes.
So I went along, and I loved what I saw. Came home, and I said to my father, I want to dance, and started. And I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher. Her name is Dorothy DeWitt, and she's still teaching today and has produced some very, very good dancers. And I was so fortunate in having such a wonderful, wonderful teacher.
Yes.
And she was also trained by a male teacher herself. And then I was with her probably for about 15 years. The National School of the Arts
Yes.
in Johannesburg.
Yes.
And so I went to the National School of the Arts from Standard 6. And the late Dulcie Howes, who was the founder of CAPAB Ballet and UCT Ballet School, saw me dancing when I was probably 16. And she said to me, it's about time that you had a male teacher. And so she said, well, we have a very good ballet school in Cape Town. Why don't you come to Cape Town? And she would offer me a bursary.
Yes.
But in fact, Jean-Pierre, I wanted to go to Stuttgart Ballet because John Cranko, as you know, was the director of the Stuttgart Ballet. And being a former South African, I thought that would be a good way. But he then sadly died. And then I thought it might be not a bad idea to go to the Royal Ballet School. My parents, though, couldn't afford that. And so I then headed off to Cape Town in 1974 and joined the UCT Ballet School, as it was then called. And our director was David Poole, who was also the director of CAPAB Ballet Company and the head of the school. But Jean-Pierre, we had the most wonderful, wonderful teachers. My male teacher was Dudley Tomlinson, and he was a former dancer with the Royal Ballet, also a former South African. And people like Pamela Crimes danced with the Sadler's Wells. People like Cecily Robinson, she danced with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. Marina Keat, or Marina Grit, as her name was, she taught us Spanish dance. Jasmine Honorary taught us national dance and choreography. And it was just the most wonderful, wonderful time to be, with other students, and also to have the ballet company right on the same premises. So every day we were able to see the company rehearsing, and often we were chosen to be in productions as students. So and as a student with the ballet school,
you were involved
in Cape Town.
Ballet production with the ballet company.
Yes. And we also did our own productions at the UCT Ballet School at a little theatre it was called the Little Theatre in Cape Town. And David Poole choreographed A Midsummer Night's Dream, the Ballet Sylvia, Capelia, and I was very fortunate to be in those ballets. And we also did quite a lot of touring in those days, one-night stand tours, when you would go from one town to the next. And that was a wonderful, wonderful training ground for one. because we had to set up the stage, we had to help with the lighting and do the performances as well. And you often got the opportunity of doing something that you wouldn't maybe normally get to do in Cape Town. And that continued when I eventually joined, well, I actually had to go to the army, all of us white South Africans in this country. It was the law of the country. We had to go and do our national service. And I was sent to 3 Commando Infantry Battalion in Potchefstroom, and I did my 3-month basic training there. And then I was sent to Kimberley, 11 Commando, and then eventually I got transferred to the castle in Cape Town. And I was able to do ballet classes because obviously my technique had gone and I had to start training all over again. And I was able to go in the afternoons and start with junior students. I then joined the ballet company in 1979, and I was with the company for 23 years. And I was very, very fortunate in having the most wonderful partner. My first partner was Nicolette Loxton, who was from Zimbabwe. And we were the first young couple to do the ballet Giselle. And David Poole, it was his ballet, he choreographed it, and he coached us for 3 months. And we also had the privilege of having the wonderful prima ballerina assoluta, Phyllis Spira, and her partner, Edward Freiling, also coach us. And so, it was an incredible 3 months that. And so by the time we got to do the performance, it was in one's body. And it was always like that every time we did that ballet again. And in the company, we often had guest artists, guest producers. And so we had the opportunity of working with the most incredible people when I think about it now. And it was, as you would remember yourself, being with PAC Ballet Company, what a wonderful golden era this was in South Africa for ballet.
I agree.
And, we had, it was so, did a lot of ballets. Peter Caslet, who designed the sets and the costumes, and a wonderful orchestra, and the performing arts councils that were, these great establishments in Johannesburg, Durban, Bloemfontein, and Cape Town, where we had a ballet company, an orchestra, an opera, and a drama company. Sadly, in 1994, with the dispensation of the new South Africa, all of the performing arts councils changed, and they were disbanded, in fact. So the companies had to become private and start raising their own funding. So that was sort of basically what, how my career went. And I became a principal dancer the 2nd year of my career. So that was a very fortunate thing. And, we did so many wonderful, wonderful ballets. And it was such a great training ground for all of us. And there was a real ladder to climb. And there was a real hierarchy, as you would know, in the ballet companies then, because I think there were 65 dancers in the company, whereas today there are probably 32 dancers, because of funding is not what it was. Not that we got paid very much ourselves, but there was money for productions. And of course, wonderful touring, as I said. We also had the opportunity, I think it was 1995 or 1994, we went to London. It was the first time the ballet company went to Europe, and we performed at Sadler's Wells for 3 weeks. And that was a great opportunity and a great experience, being in the dance capital of the world. Quite a daunting experience, of course, but it really made one realize what we needed to do to up the game of our art form, and it really pushed us. And that was a great turning point, I think, in all of our careers. So that was wonderful. And then about 15 years into my career, I really felt it was necessary for the ballet company to start an education development program and an outreach program, which we didn't have. And many other companies in the world did have these sort of extensions of their companies. So I approached Veronica Paper, our director then, who took over after David Poole, and I suggested that we start an outreach program. And that was in 1991. And she said to me, well, Philip, go out and here. I knew so little about teaching. I did a bit of a teacher's course at UCT, but it was really just my love of the dance and my passion that I really felt that I wanted to share this with underprivileged children, because I felt it was so wrong with the ballet company only having white dancers in the company, and that was the way it was in the apartheid era in South Africa. But I just felt that this was very wrong and something really needed to be done.
Yes.
And so that's what I decided to do, was to start this outreach program in 1991, and went out to the township of Gugulethu and had 34 students to start with. We worked in a little classroom at the Sufwili College, and we slowly built up the classes, and there were more students. And I was lucky enough to have a lot of male students. I think I was a bit of a novelty, being a male myself, and this attracted a lot of young male students. And so we started to do, one or two performances. We obviously had to raise money to make this possible, but I was still dancing at the time, and I realized that I would probably have to start thinking about changing my career path in a way, because so much more work needed to be done in the townships.
Yes.
And I then also decided that we need to expand the program, not only to Gugulethu, but to Langa, to Nyanga, to Kailicha. And I was working with senior students, and I taught them to become teachers. So they became my voice.
Good.
I'm not good with languages. And so they were able to speak Xhosa, and we sent them to UCT School of Dance, where they did an African dance course, and then came out and taught in the afternoons. And so that was a great, it was a great way forward to help me. And we then had volunteers that came out to help. And eventually we raised more money, and we were able to expand the program and get more teachers involved.
Yes.
And then in 1996, I think it was, I approached Gareth Ackerman, who's now the CEO of Pick n Pay, a supermarket store in South Africa. And I said, wouldn't you like to buy us a building? Because we really needed to have our own home and a base. And I managed to find a building in the area of Athlone, and eventually persuaded him to buy the building and his foundation. So they bought this building, and we then had to renovate the building. And today we have 3 wonderful dance studios, dressing rooms, showers, all the office space one needs. And so the organization buses students in. We bus in to our dance classes at Dance for All in Athlone. And the teaching staff also go out every afternoon to the different township areas. We also then used to do tours with our students and take students to places like Swellendam and Robertson and Barrydale and Montague, because I felt it was important, as when we were younger, how that encouraged young students in small towns to start training, a good training. And that's really what we did, and start a rural outreach program, and that's how it was established. Today, Dance for All has about 1,500 students, teaching in all the different areas. Of course, funding is very hard, because students aren't able to pay for classes. So we have to subsidize every student's training, and that does become harder and harder. And we did go through periods of time where we had to retrench staff, and that was very difficult.
Yes.
But we got back on track, and after COVID, things have gone better. But after 26 years, I felt it was time that I should step down as the CEO of the organization. So I retired in 2017, end of 2017. And Alison Hendricks, I mentored for 3 years, and she took over my position as doing a wonderful, wonderful job. And it's great to see that the organization still continues. And I'm a patron. I don't have to raise funds, thank God. But I'm still involved in seeing performances and promoting the organization wherever I can.
Wow, that is amazing. It's amazing. So let's return to the beginning of what you have described. When you started your first classes of ballet, how was your family responding when you went home and you said to your father, to your mother, I want to do ballet? How did they react?
I was fortunate. Yeah, I was really lucky, Jean-Pierre, because my father was a doctor of mechanical engineering, and my mother was professor of English at Wits University. And so they were quite forward thinking, and they were very, very supportive. They never ever said, my son is going to be an academic and he's not going to dance. And they always allowed myself, my younger brother, and my younger sister to do what we wanted to do in our lives.
Yeah.
And I really pay great homage and respect to my parents for allowing that, because that did make it easier. Because I know so many of my friends, especially males, whose fathers said, "There's no way that you're going to become a dancer."
Yes, I
So
know.
I was very lucky
You
in
were.
having supportive parents.
And how did your brother and your sister reacted?
They in fact started doing ballet as well, but they didn't last long. They went into other directions.
So you are the only one who kept
That's right.
dancing. So all this started in Johannesburg.
That's correct. Yes.
So you know many people who have been working with Pact Ballet then.
Yes, of course. There are people like Beverly Bag. We were students together. Shot again, who lives in New York today. We were all students together. Um, and Diane Fincham. I mean, there are a lot of people that you would know as well. Leanne Lurie. We were all at school together at the National School of the Arts. And
So
it
as
was,
you
when I
see,
think about it, there was so much talent,
there's so
which
much
is wonderful.
talent, and as you see, all these people that you have named of Pact Ballet and Cape Town, we all make part of one family.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to have people like Denise Schultz and Louis Godfrey,
Yes,
who were then running the company,
yeah,
and Dawn Weller, who then took over the
yes,
company. She was the ballerina, and Dawn and I are still in contact. I'm still in contact with Denise as well. And that's the wonderful thing about our art form. It's this incredible continuity that is so important, that we can impart our knowledge and the knowledge that we've gained from so many other people. And
exactly.
that is what is so important, to keep
Yeah,
it alive,
yeah,
and that thread that keeps going.
yes,
And as you say, it's one big family.
yes. Do you think that the new generation is keen to listen and to learn a little bit of the past of the very first South African dancers?
Yes, I do think. I think that people are very dancers, young dancers are very, very interested in how it all started,
Yeah,
and those the former dancers and
yeah.
directors and producers and whatever. Yes, there certainly are.
And what is your opinion about the new Cape Town City Ballet with Mrs. Debbie Turner? That I think she's doing wonderful work.
Absolutely, Jean-Pierre. I'm very close to Debbie, and a lot of our students used to go to. She had an academy called the
Yeah,
Cape Academy
yes,
Performing Arts that she ran for many, many years,
yeah,
and so many of our former students went there.
yes,
But it's been wonderful to see what Debbie has done in the last few years
yeah,
with Cape Town City Ballet, as it is called now, and
yeah,
how she has slowly changed the repertoire, developing the repertoire,
yeah,
extending the repertoire,
yeah,
extending the dances, which is so important, and also for audiences to be able to see new works,
yeah,
which is so important for all of us, and it keeps dancers on their toes.
yeah,
And she also goes to Europe a lot, so she's kept abreast with what is going on all over the world.
yeah,
And she's also organized for international stars to come and dance with the company. And when you have international dancers, it always lifts the standard of the
yeah,
company, and everybody rises to the occasion.
yeah,
I know that Maina Gielgud has been quite influential with coming out. She's going to be doing a new production of Don Quixote.
yeah,
She also did a production of Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, and that's great. That really is wonderful to see how the company has grown. It's a new company. It's a very young company, smaller, as I said, than it used to be. But these things take time. It doesn't happen overnight.
I
Um,
know, I know.
and she's doing a wonderful job, and I have great admiration for what Debbie is doing.
She is a hard worker and she's full of potential.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I do hope that one day, I already invited her, but I know that she's very busy with running the ballet company. But I do hope that one day she will have 1 hour of her time to make an interview for Ballet International, because that would be,
Yes, that would be
she's a wonderful person. And
absolutely,
have
absolutely.
you ever met Mr. Ashley Killer and
Yes, 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 yes. Ashley and his wife Jane
eh,
Allen. Um, she was in the ballet company with us in Cape Town,
yeah.
so I do know Ashley. And in fact, I've just Jean-Pierre read his book on John Cranko.
Oh, good.
Um, yes, a cousin of Phyllis's brought the book out a few weeks ago, and it
Yeah.
was absolutely fascinating to read about this incredible man and
John
what a talent.
Cranko. Yes.
Yeah, quite incredible.
And how much time did you receive the book? Because for me, it took something like 3 weeks, 3 weeks and a half.
Y- Yes, no, it took quite a while. It took a few months
Ah,
before I was able to get it. Yeah,
yes. But it's a beautiful book. I really
it's a lovely.
agree with you, and I invite many people to buy this book and to read it because it's beautifully and well written. You know,
Yes,
when Ashley told me, I'm writing a book, but I didn't know he was a writer. Then when I received
yeah,
the book and I started reading, I said, wow, Ashley Killer has so many skills that I wasn't even thinking about.
yes, yes.
He was
But
a,
I think dancers, I think we all, John P, I think we all have so many talents. You know, I think dancers are very special human beings.
yes.
And I think we all able to sort of tackle all sorts of things in life. And from that wonderful discipline that we've all had, you know, stands us in good stead.
Many people think that ballet dancers are only ballet dancers, but they know how to do many other things.
Quite right, quite right.
So this is why they 80, 90% they succeed always in what they want to do because it's their passion. They do it with great,
Yes,
either ballet or other art forms.
that's right. Yes.
Have you ever danced for NAPAC or for Pact Ballet?
No, Jean-Pierre, I was only with the company in Cape Town.
Yeah,
As I say, we went to London. We did do tours within South Africa.
yeah,
We did a gala, I think, in 1980, where we went to Johannesburg and
yeah,
we performed with Pact.
yeah,
And we had a reciprocal gala that had happened in Cape Town, where Pact came to Cape Town as well.
yeah,
But no, I've only was with CAPAB Ballet,
yeah,
and then Cape Town City Ballet.
yes. If I am not wrong, you were married to a principal ballerina.
That's correct. Yes, for the Spira.
Yes. Could you describe her?
Yeah, Phyllis was, she was the most incredible human being, a woman of great courage, a woman of great, just generosity of spirit. And I always kind of say that she was like the Mother Teresa of the dance. She cared so much about the dance. She cared so much about students
Yes,
and about training. And she always imparted so much of her knowledge so freely and generously, whereas often ballerinas want to keep everything themselves. And she was never like that at all. But she was also, Jean-Pierre, a great fun person. She had a really naughty sense of humor. And people often couldn't believe that the small little petite woman was this great, great artist. And
yes,
I think that that is what made her so great. She was so unaffected by her fame and her glory. Um, but she was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. And we were very fortunate in having her teach on our dance floor program because I started also a scholarship program where we brought students in and we took them to a school for 10 years. And
yes,
she trained these students for over a period of 10 years and raised an incredible standard. And of course, when we were in the ballet company, having her as the prima ballerina, it was so wonderful for us to be able to watch her performances, to watch her in class, to watch her in rehearsals. And we all learned so much from her. And her partner, she danced with Edward Grayling for
yes,
17 years.
yes,
And her partner before, as you probably would remember, was Gary Byrne,
yes,
the Rhodesian. Um, who also danced with Stuttgart Ballet, and he came out to South Africa, I think in 1963, and he became ballet master with Pack Ballet. And when Phyllis left the Royal Ballet in 1964,
are you talking about Gary Byrne or Malan?
Yes, Gary.
Gary.
And then when Phyllis left the Royal Ballet, she was there for 6 years, came back, I think, in 1964, joined Pack Ballet, and Gary became Phyllis's partner.
Yes.
And they danced then together for 10 years,
Yes.
and then came to Cape Town. And then Phyllis and Gary decided that they want to measure themselves up against international stars, and they decided to go to New York. And they went to New York, and they then got a contract through Celia Franca, who was the director of the Canadian National Ballet.
Yes.
And they joined the Canadian National Ballet for 2.5 years, and toured with the company all over America and Canada.
Yes.
And then came back. And then eventually Phyllis stopped dancing with Gary, and she then started a partnership with Edward Crayling. And as I say, they danced together for 17 years and became a magical and wonderful, wonderful partnership. So yes, we were very, very fortunate in having this great, great talent, right with us, and to be able to work with somebody like her.
If I may ask, how did you meet the first time this great talent, Phyllis Pira? And how did you fall in love? How?
Yes, well, I think I must have originally seen Phyllis dance in Johannesburg in probably 1964 or whatever. But anyway, I first met Phyllis when I was a first-year student at the UCT Ballet School.
Yes.
And it was quite a scandal at the time, because I was this first-year student and she was this great then legend, and people used to think, my God, what's she doing with this young dancer? I think I was 18 years old. And there was a 13-year difference between Phyllis and I. But we had this incredible Jean-Pierre relationship, incredible friendship that just developed and grew. I remember Phyllis invited me and another student for dinner. She was a very good cook, and she invited us and I think I went back to do the washing up the next night, and I stayed to do the washing up for the rest of my life. Yes, but we had a wonderful 34 years together, which was quite incredible.
In a sort of way, she kept you under her wings. She protected you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Well, it was
she was.
It was a little bit like Margot Fonteyn and Rudolf Nureyev.
Yes, it's similar, really.
Similar,
very similar.
Yeah.
But she was such a great influence in my life, and how fortunate I was to have had that incredible partnership and incredible time that I really would always cherish. And in fact, Jean-Pierre, I do a lecture on Phyllis's life, which I presented in Johannesburg. I've done it a few times and presented it here and in Cape Town. Debbie's quite keen that I also do it with the ballet company. But I've got lovely footage of Phyllis dancing and interviews with Dulcie Howes and David Poole, and her talking and dancing with Edward as well, which is lovely to have that, just for her legacy to continue. To be remembered by others and younger dancers.
Yes.
And also, Jean-Pierre, I was really fortunate to be able to dance with Phyllis. I danced in David Poole's Midsummer Night's Dream as Oberon to her Titania, and I also danced in Veronica Paper's Romeo and Juliet with Phyllis, and that was a great turning point for me, and with this great ballerina.
Yes.
And a great thing. But Phyllis was really patient with me, and I learned so much, and it was a real turning point for me.
What kind of style did she have in her ballet? Was she romantic?
She had a really pure classical style, and the most beautiful musicality, incredible musicality. And not only that, Jean-Pierre, she was such an actress. She always conveyed whatever she was dancing and became Juliet or became the evil Odile, and transformed herself into whatever role she played. even until, you know, she had a long career, even until the age of 45 or whatever, she looked like 14. You know, she had that high forehead, those big eyes, big mouth,
Yeah.
and her face really went right out to the audience. And that generosity of spirit that really made people, you know, she became the darling of Cape Town.
Yeah.
She's very sadly missed, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but one's got to remember the wonderful times. And yeah, I think she had a very similar quality to Fontaine, actually, because Margot was a great friend of Phyllis's.
Mm.
And she was also a great influence in Phyllis's life when she was in the Royal Ballet.
Yeah.
And Margot was very generous to Phyllis and often helped her in rehearsals. And so I think Phyllis modeled herself quite a lot on a lot of Margot's style and that
Yeah.
English style.
Yeah.
Um,
Did Margot
Berliner.
Fontaine dance for CAPAB?
Yes, she did. I think in 1971, she came out to do Swan Lake.
Ah.
Yeah.
Um, and how was the response of the audience of that time when Phyllis was going on stage?
It was, yeah, it was incredible, Jean-Pierre. You couldn't actually buy a ticket. I mean, the tickets were sold out. As soon as the box office opened, it was sold out. So there was always a great excitement whenever Phyllis danced. They used to call Phyllis box office draw because they knew that when she was going to dance, it was going to be sold out. Um, so yes, always great,
Always full. The audience was always.
always full. Yes.
It's
Uh-huh.
a shame. It's a shame that on YouTube or on the internet, we don't find the videos of those great ballet companies as CAPAB, Pact Ballet, NAPAC. I mean, of course, that time the video was not so sophisticated like the one of today. There is
That's
only
right.
one video that I found about Pact Ballet, Catherine Burnett in The Sleeping Beauty. And this is
Yeah.
it. This is the only thing I found. But it's a shame that we don't find all these three ballet companies' videos.
Absolutely, yes. It is a great shame, Jean-Pierre. And as you say, you know, the technology then when we danced wasn't what it is today. And I mean, we used to have somebody videoing a performance, but
Yes,
it was usually a black and white
yeah,
video. It wasn't very clear.
yeah,
And as you say, it is a shame because one has no recollection of
yeah,
that on video
yeah.
today to be able to see.
Well, the only thing that maybe some people have, but they keep preciously, are the photos
Yes, yes, yeah,
in black and white.
um,
But the
yeah, yeah.
are making part of great memories that I think it will be time to share all these photographs about CAPAB, about Pact Ballet, about NAPAC. I know that in Cape Town you have one of the great Pact Ballet photographer, and he was working with Pact Ballet. But now I think he's very old. He's 91, 92. But he was one of the best photographer of Pact.
Was that Bob Martin? Bob?
Yes, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah, he's actually just Jean-Pierre died.
Did
He
he?
died quite recently, a few weeks ago. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that
Yeah.
because he was wonderful.
Yes.
I didn't know he passed away, but he was
Yeah.
very old and I think he was ill also.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Well, time flows for everyone, unfortunately.
Oh, oh,
Um, is there anything that you regret about the past that maybe you said, I would, if I had the possibility, I would remake that or I would do it in another way?
if I had to redo my career again, I think I would do it again. Probably do things slightly better because one has the knowledge now.
Yeah.
And looking back, Jean-Pierre, you know, we all had injuries when we danced.
Yes.
I had Achilles tendon. I had very short tendons. I had a very good jump, but I had very short tendons. And I had 3 Achilles tendon operations and knee operation, as one does as dancers. We have these things. But at the time, our director, David Poole, he never gave us time off. So we had to push ourselves and often work through injuries, which was detrimental at the end of the day. And that ended up for us having to have operations. And then you didn't have time to recuperate when you came back either. And that's one of the things I think that I would be much more careful about, if one had injuries, to really,
But I think that many ballet companies now have physiotherapists. They have also medical equipment for ballet dancers, where they can do massage, they can do other sport to prevent injuries. And and dancers maybe today are luckier in a certain way because they have a more different things, to learn and to work on. While in our time, we were doing only ballet training all day long.
absolutely, yes. And I mean, most companies like the Royal Ballet and every company, I think, today has your own physiotherapist,
Yes.
and you have gym equipment,
Yeah.
all of that right at hand, which we never did. We had to go to a physio or whatever. And so dancers are very lucky today to be able to have all of these things that are so vitally important.
Yeah.
And prevention is better than cure, as they always say.
Yes.
And to be able to look after the dancer and to be able to have a longer career is so important.
How was David Poole? How was his temper? Some people say that he had a strong temper. He was, very energetic person. And some
Yeah,
say he was very kind. So,
David. Yeah, he was a complex man, highly intelligent, a wonderful producer, and he did have a short temper, um, and that often made us dancers feel very nervous,
yeah,
which I think often caused injuries. Um, but he was a great man, and he really produced, and he brought out qualities in one as a dancer that one never even thought you had
yeah,
yourself. And
yes,
he just had that sort of knack.
yeah,
But yes, he did have a temper, and that was often rather sad.
yeah,
And it's the older he got, the worse his temper got. And he kind of, I think, in a way, felt he was the god of the dance in South Africa.
yes.
So we were all, we revered him, but we're petrified of him as well.
Was he losing his temper during class or during rehearsal?
Yes, it could be in class or in rehearsals. Um, and often at the end of the day, when it got to the last hour of the day, then you'd know that start losing his temper. But he was a perfectionist, and he expected the best, of course, from everyone.
Yeah,
Um,
I presume.
I remember, Jean-Pierre, when I did my first performance of Giselle with Nicolette in 1980, and I came off stage. I think we had a standing ovation, which I don't remember, but came off stage, and David Poole was standing there, and he turned around to Nicolette and I, and he said, "Don't let that go to your heads." And that was all he said.
So, CAPAB had also their own orchestra.
Yes, yeah, we had our own orchestra. Yeah, yeah.
And
Rather packed and
how many performances were you preparing in a month or in a season or in the year?
we probably did about 4 or 5 seasons a year,
Yes.
and then in between we used to go on tours as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
And were you learning? I mean, you were performing and learning also other ballet in the same time?
yes, yeah, absolutely. So you'd be performing Sleeping Beauty or Giselle or Swan Lake, but at the same time you'd be rehearsing another ballet. Yeah,
Another ballet. Yes.
yeah.
And the tour, how much time did you usually stay in England or in other places?
Well, the tours, the only tour that I did to Europe was just the London tour, and that was 3 weeks,
Yes.
performing at Sadler's Wells. And we did 3 productions, in fact. So it was quite tough going. And what was hard, Jean-Pierre, is that we had to dance on a raked stage, which we'd never danced on before. You know, it throws your weight forward.
Yes, yes.
So that was quite difficult. And then the tours that we did locally in South Africa, we used to go to Durban, Port Elizabeth, East London, Bloemfontein,
Yes,
and the company was divided into two because the company was quite big. And
yes,
I was fortunate to sometimes go on the big tours, but I often went on the smaller tours. And
yes,
that was great because we got the opportunity of that we would have not maybe done in Cape Town.
yes,
And then David Poole would see us performing, and then we would get the opportunity of doing further roles in Cape Town.
good.
And so that was a great training ground. And those were really one-night stand tours. You know, you pack up and you go to the next town and perform, and the next day you go somewhere else. But that was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
Have you ever danced with Dawn Weller?
Not well in a ballet. I think it was in Sylvia when she came and guested with us.
Yeah.
I was in the ballet and she was the principal ballerina in the company.
Yes.
Um, but I actually saw Dawn. I've just seen her in December. She was here with her husband in Cape Town.
Wow.
She was here for 2 days, so it was wonderful to see
Yeah.
her. Yeah,
Well, she's a wonderful lady. She's a wonderful lady.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And are you still in touch with people of Cape Town? I mean, CAPAB or Johannesburg?
Yes, there are still dancers and former dancers that I keep in contact.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've just seen Jackie Hollander, who was a South African, who was the choreologist with the Royal Ballet for many years.
Yeah.
And she taught Dame Nanette de Waal was Checkmate,
Yeah.
which she taught all over the world and taught that to us
Yes.
in South Africa,
Yes.
and has done many other ballets of Kenneth Macmillan,
Yeah.
Sir Frederick Ashton. So it
Yes.
was lovely to catch up with Jackie. I saw her 2 weeks ago. She's been here on a holiday. So yes, I do. I keep in contact with Monica Mason, who's a very good friend of mine as well, who was, as you know, the director of the Royal Ballet. She and Phyllis were great friends. They grew up together in Johannesburg.
Monica
Um,
Mason is from South Africa.
Monica Mason,
Yes.
yeah. And another dancer, Brian Bircher, he was with the Royal Ballet as well. And he also grew up with Phyllis in Johannesburg all those years ago. So he sometimes comes to Cape Town. And so, yes, I do keep in touch with many, many of dancers.
You see,
I also have a great, I,
just talking to the audience, ladies and gentlemen of Ballet International, as you can see, many people wonder how was the talent of South Africa. And now with Mr. Philip Boyd and with many other artists from South Africa, we are all trying to highlight the pure art form and the talent that exists in South Africa. The generations have changed, but the talent is still very alive and very strong. Thanks to the new dancers, but also thanks to the artists like Philip Boyd and the artists of CAPAB, the artists of PACT, that they are passing on all their experience and teaching to the new generation. So this is what I like the most, is that South African dancers are like a team. They are still like a team, even if the ballet companies, some ballet companies have changed the name, are not existing anymore, but the team is still there and still alive and very, very strong. So this is what I appreciate. So artists like Mr. Philip and artists like many others are really necessary today, because those artists are the key of South Africa and of the young generation of tomorrow. I hope you agree with me.
absolutely. Thank you for your kind words.
So when you started, you decided to teach. How was your impact, your first impact? I mean, did you wake up a morning and you said, okay, I'm going to give a bar and a center, or you just prepared yourself, you just thought, built it up your own syllabus and your own class?
Well, yes, I worked on the syllabus of the Royal Academy of Dance, and I was trained under
Yes.
that syllabus as well as the Giacchetti method.
Yes.
And Pamela Crimes, who was one of our teachers, she worked on a syllabus which we implemented, and we worked on the syllabus. But our students, Jean-Pierre, because of being in the townships and not having money, which
Yes.
was always the problem, we never put children through exams because we had so many students. It wasn't, you know, and that was my kind of feeling, that I wanted to make dance as popular as sport was,
Yeah.
and give it, you know, give every child that wanted to dance an opportunity, not to just choose children with the perfect legs and feet,
Yes.
but to slowly work with kids and just give them a discipline that they never had in their lives.
Yeah.
And I think it also, as you know, with ballet, it creates such a wonderful magic, and it opens so many new worlds for these children who had never even been to Cape Town in 1991.
Yeah.
And it really it gave them so much confidence, so much self-respect, so much self-esteem. And of course, it took years to develop. And you know, we had to teach the kids how to behave. We then took the children to the theatre, so they got to know how to behave in the theatre. And I remember asking Veronica if we could use some of the children from Guguletu to be a nutcracker. And that was a wonderful, wonderful turning point for those children to be with other white children,
Yeah.
because of the awful apartheid system that we had in this country, for them to be able to mix with other children, and for white children to mix with black children.
Yeah.
That was so important. And I remember a mother once saying to me, "Oh, this is so intimidating for our white children to have your black children here." And I said, but for our children, it's like going from Earth to the moon. You know, it was such an incredible experience for them, which they took to like a duck to water.
Yeah.
To be able to,
Yes.
and it kind of it gave them security, because class was every day,
Yes.
and they knew that we were there every day.
Yes.
So they felt safe in the environment that they were with, and they felt they were part of a family, because we got to know their parents, and we really nurtured the students.
Yeah.
And Phyllis and I, in fact, we fostered two of our students, lived with us. My first male student was a young boy called Theo Ndinwa, who's now 40 years old. He was 10 years old when he started with me, and we sent him to school, a focus school for the arts. We then sent him to UCC Ballet School, and then we took him to London, and he got a bursary to go to the Rombair Ballet School. He worked in Leeds, and he then came back to South Africa, started his own dance company.
Yes.
We're still very, very close. He's now teaching at a private girls' school in Cape Town. He's also working in the townships, helping other young students, which is great. So what he's learned, he's passing on that knowledge to a whole new generation.
Yeah.
So yes, it was, going back, it was all very, my passion and my love of the dance that I really wanted to share with children, and felt it was so important that we develop and start training black children, and with the hope of having black dancers in a ballet company in South Africa, which eventually did happen. And the funny thing now, well, not the funny thing, strange thing now, there are very few white male dancers, students. There are more black students, male students, which wasn't the case when I was a student all those years ago. And that's how the dynamics have changed, or the demographics have changed. But it's wonderful, because it's opened a whole new world.
I think the technique hasn't changed. It's still strong, either for white and for black.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And the interesting thing, Jean-Pierre, is how I noticed how body shapes changed, because black students never were able to eat what we eat. So we were able to teach the children a proper diet, how to eat lettuce and salad and tomatoes and
Yeah.
all of that sort of thing. So body shapes changed over the years,
Yes.
and that's wonderful. But that's all part of education. Is
Yes.
the quickest way to slice through the deprivation of the past.
Yeah.
And the arts is such a wonderful way to be able to do this,
Well, because
because there
art,
are no boundaries.
ballet has its own discipline also in the food,
Absolutely, yes,
and it's very difficult for the ballet dancers to follow this discipline. It's more easy to follow the technique, but it's more difficult to follow the food regime.
yeah,
And also in Europe, it's the same thing. I mean, in Europe, I see that there are many dancers who have a tendency to, after 35, 40 years, they are losing their shape, they're losing their silhouette, which is a shame.
yeah,
Well, but each dancer has its own pattern, has own life, and each
yes.
dancer decides for himself or herself. And have you ever danced for Ashley Killer?
No, no,
No, no.
no.
Ashley Killer in Packed Ballet, he made beautiful choreographies, and he didn't. I don't think he didn't have the same temper as David the Poole. He was more calm, you know.
Yes, yes.
He was very demanding. I mean,
Mm.
he is very demanding because he's still alive. Um, but he was more, he would ask you the thing, do it again 1,000 of times, but he
Yeah.
was never losing his temper.
Okay.
And I don't know if you have ever met or worked with Lorna Hopt also.
I know Lorna, but I haven't. Yes, I've never worked with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she
But
was,
I heard the lovely interview you did with her a few
yeah,
weeks ago,
yeah,
which
well,
is most interesting.
she is 94 now. 90,
That's right. Incredible.
it's incredible, and she's very lucid, and
Yes.
like if you
Yeah.
talk a lady of 45, 50, I mean,
That's right.
she
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
kept all the memories about it,
Yes.
like if it was yesterday. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I made also beautiful interview with Nicola Middlemist.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, I don't know if you have ever met her or worked.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she was when I first joined Pac Ballet, she was dancing. Then she was
That's right.
promoted to senior ballet mistress and repetiteur, and she was wonderful, really wonderful, because her classes were very nicely built,
Structured. Yeah. Yeah.
structured, yes. And after her classes, you would feel really great. And what was nice with Pac Ballet is that we young dancers were very lucky that every day of the week we had a different teacher.
Yeah.
So on Monday you would have Ashley Killer. On Tuesday you would have Nicola Middlemist. Then we had Bruce Simpson. Then we had, many Edgardo Hartley,
Yes. Yes.
Jaime Riveros, and
Yeah.
many great artists. And I think that also CAPAB, they had a lot of teachers.
Yes, we did. We had a wonderful teacher who I'm very friendly with. Her name was Nadia Krylova, and
Uh-huh.
she was a soloist with the Bolshoi Ballet for 20 years. And she came out, and she then joined the company as the second ballet mistress. And she is the most wonderful, wonderful teacher, Jean-Pierre. And in fact, I learned so much from Nadia for my own teaching, which
Yeah,
I still use today, because
yeah,
I teach adult ballet classes in Amanus,
yeah,
which are just fun classes. But yes, she was a great influence in my life.
yeah,
And it was a great privilege for us to have somebody like her with
Yeah.
that lineage right down from the Bolshoi Ballet. And yeah,
So
an incredible teacher.
Nadia Krylova, she inherited all the Vaganova.
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Vag-
Simonova was her teacher.
The
Yeah,
great names of
that's right.
sorry.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with Andrei Prokofsky?
Yes, he did ballet for us in Cape Town. And so I was very lucky to work with him as well.
What ballet did he
Yes.
do? What ballet?
He did Dr. Zhivago.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It was quite an epic. Yeah.
in Pact Ballet, Andrei Prokofsky choreographed many production, many ballet, like Soft Blue Shadows,
Oh,
uh,
yes, yes.
mm, Anna Karenina, and
Yeah.
the Three Musketeers. And
Yes, yes, yes.
you had to see Don Weller in the Three Musketeers and Liane Lurie.
Yeah,
They were
yes.
always swapping casts. One day it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Weller, one day it was Liane Lurie. But both of them, Liane Lurie and Don Weller, in the Three Musketeers, were really excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Really excellent. And
Yeah.
they had different style of work, different technique, but when each one had something special to give to the audience.
Yes, yes.
And I presume that also CAPAB had the same thing, the same type of dancers.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And we often, Jean-Pierre, we were fortunate in having probably 5 casts. So there was a great selection of casts.
Yes.
Um, us as younger dancers to be able to see,
Yes.
every night different casts. So one learned so much.
Uh, so did you start teaching in the ballet school of CAPAB, or did you start teaching for the ballet company?
It was for the ballet company, but it was for the outreach program, which was called
Okay.
Ballet for All originally.
Yeah.
And in 1995, I changed the name to Dance for All
Yeah.
because we then incorporated African dance, contemporary dance, Spanish dance, and
Yeah.
not only classical ballet, because I felt that was very, very important.
Yeah.
But I taught at UCT School of Dance a few years ago. I taught the males for about 2 years,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed. And that was a great opportunity working with the males.
Yes. Of course, when you teach to male dancers, well, ballet classes are nearly similar, but there is a different color, a different potential to give to the male because it's much stronger than the ladies.
Correct.
Ladies
Yeah,
have
yeah.
point work, but while male dancers have the jumps, the elevation, the tour, and and also there is finally you combine the two with the pas de deux classes, which is
Yes, yes.
important.
Yeah.
Did you have pas de deux classes?
Yes, we did. We had pas de deux classes twice, I think twice a week as
Yeah,
students.
yeah.
And we had male classes every single afternoon, which was wonderful with Dudley Tomlinson, who was our male teacher, and a
Good.
brilliant, brilliant teacher,
Yes,
which was really good.
yes. And now that when you left CAPAB and you started teaching separately, um, when you have a student who has difficulty and you see that this student maybe will not be able to become a professional dancer, how you as a teacher, how do you behave? How do you approach to talk to this student and to let her explain or let him explain that maybe he should choose something different or something parallel to dance?
Yes, that is always a difficult one. But I would always encourage the students to be able to still continue their classes.
Yeah.
But I think I was always very honest with them about whether they would be able to become professionals or not,
Yeah.
and kind of guide them in another direction. And also, Jean-Pierre, we used to encourage our students, they did quite a lot of choreography. If they weren't good dancers themselves, they
Yeah.
became very, very good choreographers.
Good.
And I was amazed at what they came up with using African music. but using the technique of a ballet technique,
Yes.
but using different music. And so we also learned a lot about other music, which was a great thing. So yes, I would always encourage students to be able to continue their classes, but make them realize that they wouldn't be able to, become a professional.
Yes. Have you ever, I'm referring to CAPAB or to the new generation of today, has Cape Town ever tried to build up a new style like Maurice Béjart, or like Martha Graham, or this new modern works, instead of, or mixing the two, the classic with the modern works?
Yes, there have been one or two productions that they have been doing new choreography.
Yes,
So that is going to, I think, develop. I think that still will develop.
yes,
But as I say, Debbie is, she's using quite a lot of American choreographers, French choreographers,
yes,
English choreographers who are coming out
yes,
and mounting new works with the company.
yes,
Yeah, I think that is something that could still be developed, is creating something new that could be uniquely South African.
yes. Do you think Cape Town would be a central point to make some competition, international competition, in order that other dancers from or other ballet companies could perform in Cape Town?
Yes, I think that would be. No, Jean-Pierre, we do have the international ballet competition that Dirk Badenhorst
Yes,
runs, which happens every year now. But I think that would be a great thing, to be able to look into that.
because I think that giving the possibility to create, if it's already existing, like with Mr. Dirk Badenhorst, to give the possibility to Cape Town to become, a city light, a city point, reference point of ballet, like
Yeah,
Vienna, like those big cities where there is a big competition, and that people would travel to Cape Town. This would help also the tourism industry.
absolutely, absolutely.
Instead of doing one competition every year or every 2 years,
Yes,
we implemented a little bit more and give the
yeah,
possibility to young people to let them know and mix the two, all the generation together,
yes,
because that would
yeah,
also help the young South African to improve their technique, working with
that's right.
foreigners, with
Yeah,
foreign ballet companies. So this was
absolutely.
my second thought that I had in my
Yeah,
backstage brain.
yeah.
So we are reaching the end of our interview, because I know you told me that in 10 minutes time it's 8 p.m. in South Africa. We have the same time as in Rome, but you have electricity cuts. Is that right?
That's right. Yes,
So
yes.
how do when you have to do a ballet class, how do you respond to these electricity cuts?
Well, what I've got, Jean-Pierre, I've got a boomer box, and so I play my music through my cell phone
Yeah.
onto the boomer box. So you don't need electricity for that, as long as the boomer box is charged. Um, but
Hey,
but
but
we have
how
this
but how
ghastly load shedding. Sometimes we have it 2 or 3 times a day, and sometimes it's off for 8 hours, and it changes all the time. So you never know.
but
Yeah.
does it happen also when you are in a ballet studio with students?
Yes. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
And how do ballet students react when the electricity goes off and the music continue?
Well, I think they also use boomer boxes and Bluetooth and all of those sort of things. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I hope the situation will soon be settled, and then South Africa will find a solution to these electricity cuts, because I
Yeah,
heard
please
that
God, please God.
because I heard that also in Johannesburg, in Durban, and everywhere they do that, which is a
Yeah,
shame, because there are many people who finally have big problems. So,
that's right.
Mr. Philip, well, we are nearly approaching the end of our interview. What is your message that you would like to give to the dancers who are in Europe, in United States, everywhere in the world, and have been listening to you, and maybe you could be a reference, a source of hope with your words?
Yeah, I think my message is to be able to share as much as one can with other dancers, and also to respect what has been before is so important. And because without a history, well, without a background, you have no history. And that is so important for all of us to respect where we've come from and, where we're going to. I think that is so important. And just to share the magic of dance is one of the most beautiful gifts for all of us, and how blessed we are to have had careers and to have danced and to have enjoyed our careers as much as we did, and to work with so many incredible people. One probably only realizes this as you get older, what a wonderful time it was. But yes, I think one needs to cherish every single moment,
Yeah,
is so important.
I agree. I totally agree. 100% I agree. This interview is a good opportunity for you to address yourself. You are acting now like a lighthouse and giving hope to the dancers of the old generation of CAPAB, Pact Ballet, NAPAC, who are listening to you in this interview. What is this light that you are giving to them, this light and love of ballet?
I think it's, what can I say? I just think it's something that we have within us to be able to share, to be able to appreciate, and also the wonderful, wonderful style of classical ballet in all its forms and the way it's going to develop, and the classiness about it and the style is so important. And it kind of is like a religion in a way, um,
Great.
and it is something very spiritual, to be able to take one on another level,
Yeah,
and yes, to transport one's audiences and to transport your students into a wonderful, wonderful world that opens so many new doors,
yeah,
and so many new aspects to one's life.
I agree. I agree with you, because my mother used to tell me, Jean-Pierre, if you dance well on stage and you do it with great passion, your dance will be like a prayer, will
Very
sound
true.
like a prayer. And
Yeah.
this is why I agree with you that when you say that ballet, it's like sort of religion for each dancer,
Yeah.
because we all make a prayer with our body. We talk with
Yeah.
our body. We express ourselves with our body. So what we do on
And
stage,
we are the custodians of this wonderful art form that
yes,
has to continue and be passed on, to pass the baton on
yes,
to a younger generation.
I agree. Yes. What is your message that you would like to give and to say to the audience of Ballet International and to the people who are going to watch your interview on YouTube? What is your advice about ballet, about preserving the art of ballet?
I think my advice is to be able to nurture,
Yes,
to be able to guide, to be able to appreciate, to be able to pass on, as I keep saying,
yes,
this wonderful, wonderful art,
yes.
and to keep it alive.
I agree. We must always keep it alive. Always,
Yeah.
always, always.
Yeah.
Many people say that ballet is nearly dying, but I don't agree.
No.
It
No.
may die in some parts, but it will born in others.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Mr. Philip Boyd, I thank you with all my heart for the beautiful interview that you have done today. Your words, you have been talking with your heart today.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the
So,
opportunity.
I have to ask you a little favor. Whoever you will see from CAPAB or from PACT or from NAPAC, and they wish to make an interview to highlight the beauty of the South African talent, please encourage them to contact me, because this is my task, is to encourage
Certainly will.
people to highlight the beauty of performing art, not only South Africa, but everywhere in the world. Because dancers in South Africa or other countries, we all make part of one family,
Yeah.
one team, one heart, one heartbeat.
Quite right.
So thank you again, Mr. Philip. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, just thank you for the wonderful work that you do in keeping this wonderful art form alive and
I try
yeah,
to do
keeping
my
it all on the map.
I try to do my
Thank you.
best, even if I'm not perfect, but I try to do my best. So all
Thank you.
love and thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye bye.